Welcome, and thank you for joining our wellness chats. I'm Sharon, founder of the Expert Connect, and joining me today is Sharon Ness, founder of High Performance Coaching. Sharon, how are you doing this morning?
I'm wonderful this morning, Anshu. Thank you for having me.
Oh, the pleasure is mine. We're so excited that you're able to join us. Obviously, Sharon is one of our experts on the Expert Connect, and she also does amazing work with her company, High Performance Coaching. And today we're going to be talking about SAD. I'm not going to sort of spell out what SAD is. I will leave that to you as the expert. But I think this topic is so timely as we transition into a different season, and with the pandemic also that we've been dealing with. So Sharon, why don't you take it away and tell us what is SAD?
Okay, well, to begin, I want to just be very, very clear that I am a coach. I'm a life coach. And SAD is an acronym for Seasonal Affective Disorder. And so basically that means that if you're affected by SAD, you have changing moods. You sometimes get depressed based on the seasons. Those of us who live in North America are very, very familiar with seasonal affective disorder in the fall and winter, but there are some people that suffer from it in the winter and spring, so on the other end. And so what it is your circadian rhythms get out of whack because you're getting less light, and it causes you to become depressed. And so you can be currently depressed and your depression can worsen, or you can be functioning very well and become depressed based on the changes in the light. And let's face it, this coming Tuesday, the 22nd, is the first day of fall. And so we're going to be at 12 and 12. And from that point on, our daylight is going to slowly slip away until we hit the winter equinox around, I think, about December 21st, if I'm not mistaken. And so people are going to become very depressed. They're going to probably eat more, sleep more, gain weight, and overall feel yucky. And it's normal, but there's things that we can do to counteract that.
Interesting. And so we'll get to the part where what are some things that people can do, but I just want to ask you then, so are this weight gain maybe, or eating more, depression, anxiety, are all these sort of some common symptoms of SAD?
Absolutely. For a lot of years, people referred to seasonal affective disorder as the winter blues.
Yes.
Or cabin fever. Right? And a lot of people have a marked change in their outlook and how they feel as the amount of light exposure you get changes radically. And there's risk factors that make you more vulnerable to this than perhaps other people.
Right. And does any one group of people or one or two groups of people get impacted more with this seasonal affective disorder, or everybody goes through it in the same manner?
Well, not everybody goes through it. There's some risk factors. There'll be some people that will say that women tend to be affected more, and I suspect that's because women tend to seek help for it more than men. The typical risk factors are if you do have a family history of seasonal affective disorder. Now, don't ask me if that's nurture or nature, if you learn that behavior from someone in your family, but it does tend to be a risk factor. Actually, being predisposed to depression or bipolar disorder is also a risk factor. And the biggest risk factor is how far away from the equator you live. So let me put this into perspective. I think the statistics that I could get out of the United States, and I picked the US simply because they have Alaska, and then they have like a state like Florida. So there's quite a bit of distance between the two states. And the number of people in Florida that suffer from seasonal affective disorder is like 1.7%. But if you look at the statistics from Alaska, who is much further away from the equator, it's 9.9%.
Wow.
Yes. So, I mean, the closer you are to the equator, of course, you're getting very balanced and very, very consistent exposure to sun. day in, day out. It very rarely changes. But the further away from the equator you get, so if you live in Australia, if you live in Canada, you're more likely to experience the winter blues.
So what can people do who don't want to get impacted as much from these winter blues, if we say so? What are some things that we can put into practice that will help us?
A lot of people who experience seasonal affective disorder know that they do. And those are the people who book those sunshine vacations every winter or spring as a reset, as a way to dig out of that depression. And in this year of COVID, we're faced with a lot of questions around whether or not we can travel and where can we travel to, where are places open where we can get that sunshine. And then there's also the other group of people who haven't been working that simply cannot afford a tropical getaway for that reset.
Right.
And that's the reason why I started looking at this. And one of the reasons why I blogged about this this week. There's things that we can put into place right now and habits that we can build that will hopefully help us to get across the finish line when we hit spring equinox sometime in March. One of the biggest things that you can do is add exercise into your daily routine. So the exercise releases serotonin, and it's a really, really great natural antidepressant to begin with. So if you have regular exercise that your body comes to rely on, you're naturally going to be feeling better. And if you can exercise next to a window, even if it's a dull gray day outside, at least having some of that natural light come in is going to help you feel a little bit better. Better still, if it's not 40 below and you can bundle up, getting outside into the fresh air and the little bit of sunshine that we see here in Canada is also going to help you out tremendously. So my first recommendation is to build in a regular exercise routine, which is going to naturally help you with the depressive piece around the winter blues. The other thing is to have that consistent schedule built in. Now, a lot of these habits that I'm going to be talking about are great habits to have, period, to make yourself feel better. So if you go to bed at the same time every night, if you wake up at the same time every morning, and if you make sure that your bedtime routine is healthy so that you're not exposed to blue light, you know, you have a shower, you journal, you read, and you go to sleep. And it's the same time on Friday night as it is on Tuesday night. For the most part, we still want to celebrate and have fun with our friends when we can. So you want to have a consistent schedule, regular meals, regular wake up time. It's all going to, it may not stop seasonal affective disorder, but it's going to stop it from being really, really severe. Okay.
Yeah.
There are things on the market called light therapy lamps. And I'm actually going to invest in one this year because guess what? I suffer from SAD. We often talk about the things that we're very familiar with.
Right.
And when I first realized I had this winter depression, those lights, these light therapy lamps were very, very expensive. So I've never, ever bought one. But this year I'm going to buy one. And you can get them for like that $30 mark on Amazon. And you plug it in and you expose yourself to that light for approximately 30 minutes first thing in the morning. And it helps your brain to function better.
Interesting.
Yes. It boosts your circadian rhythm. So your circadian rhythm is kind of your sleep-wake rhythm.
Right.
So when you give your body that light first thing in the morning, it wakes itself up and mentally you start to be prepared to get on with your day. The other thing, and I never knew these existed until I started to do some research, was they have these alarm clocks that don't wake you up with sound. They wake you up with light.
Oh, wow.
I know, really cool, right?
Yeah.
So they imitate a sunrise.
Wow.
So the light goes on and it gets brighter and brighter and brighter and brighter and the intention of these alarm clocks is to wake you up with an imitation sunrise.
Oh, wow.
So I would, as much as I'd love to buy one and try it out, my husband would throttle me.
We don't want that.
No, we don't want that. But it's another alternative, and apparently they're very, very affordable as well. So this is something that other people who have already been diagnosed with seasonal affective disorder might want to look at. And speaking of doctors, if you think you've got the winter blues, I mean, I've talked about what it is and who could have it and what you can do. It's still probably not a bad idea to make sure that you talk to your doctor about this, because I'm not a physician. And if you get very severe effects of seasonal affective disorder, you may want to talk to your doctor about medication. Some antidepressants. Depression has a huge scale, and there's people who function with their depression and people who barely function with their depression. And there's no shame in seeking medical assistance, seeking psychotherapy, counseling, whatever it is, in order to overcome depression. And so I encourage everybody who just wants to die 1,000 deaths when they know that fall is here, to talk to your doctor and make sure that you don't have another problem.
Right.
It may not be seasonal affective disorder that you're dealing with.
Right.
If you can get outside as much as possible, even if it's to get outside and stand in your driveway at noon in the middle of winter. Sometimes there's little bits of sunshine and you can raise your face up and it warms you. It's vitamin D, even though it's far away vitamin D, and that will help you with the winter blues. And journal. Write about the things that have got you down. Slow your brain down. I think that probably a lot of our viewers happen to be women.
Yeah.
There may be some men, and welcome, guys. Majority of the viewers are probably women at this point in time, and our brains are firing on so many different circuits all the time. Our brains look like your knitting basket with all the yarn tangled together. And when you journal, you have to slow down what you're thinking, because you cannot write as fast as you think. And if you're finding that your mind is going 1,000,000 miles an hour, one of the best things you can do is sit down with a pen and a piece of paper and start putting those thoughts down. And it will automatically slow you down and give you pause to reflect on what you need to think about, what you need to do next. You can start to make a plan once you slow your brain down. So what I want to say to our viewers is, you have the ability and the opportunity right now to start creating some amazing habits that won't do away with the winter blues, but will help you tremendously during this darkening time, at least up here in Alberta, Canada. I always crack a bottle of wine the day after we hit the first day of winter, because I know from that moment on, every day just starts getting a little bit longer, and then I'm good.
That's a good strategy.
It's something to look forward to, and that's what you need to do. You need to look forward to things. You need to look forward to when spring is going to be here again. If you plant a garden, by golly, order yourself some seed catalogs and sit down during those dreary dark evenings, like before supper when it's turning dark outside, and start planning your garden, planning what flowers you want to grow. Think about starting seedlings in your house. Look forward, look ahead. You don't have to race, but as long as you keep moving forward with baby steps, it's going to keep you optimistic, it's going to keep you hopeful, and it's going to keep you productive.
Yes, I think that's well said, Sharon. You have given us so many tips and you've shared, I mean, I read your last blog as well, and you've shared some amazing things in there as well. And I think today the chat truly brings into light what we should be doing and how may we be able to cope with this, especially. And I think it's so timely and this topic is so important because as we've gone through the pandemic, like I said, when we started, and now we have this season change. So I think we're just layering things one on top of the other. And how are we going to then, if we can't mitigate all of it, what things or what practices are we going to put in place to help us deal with it a little bit better? So thank you for that. I think that was beautiful, beautiful insight and advice for all of us. And how might the listeners who have tuned in, you said you're a life coach, how might they reach out to you should they want to seek your services?
They can reach out through my website at highperformancecoachingservices.ca. I'm also on Facebook. You can look us up on High Performance Coaching Services. And you can look up my podcast. I launched a podcast this Friday, and hopefully moving forward, it'll be every Friday so that you can tune in when you're on the drive home from work. It's called Coaching on Your Commute. And I would love to hear from listeners and help out in any way, shape, or form that I can. And if you have a topic that you would love to see blogged about, podcasted about, please reach out and give me those topics because I love it when I'm inspired by others.
Beautiful. Thank you so much, Sharon, for your time this morning. I greatly appreciate it. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in and listening to us, and stay connected for more episodes. Stay safe.